Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything, you guys. Watch the video and feel it. Then let's evaluate together. The community center buzzed with life, the kind of energy that made you feel like anything was possible. The air was thick with the smell of cornbread, fried chicken, and sweet peach cobbler, the kind of food that warmed you from the inside out. Fairy lights twinkled above, casting a golden glow over the crowd. Volunteers in flour-dusted aprons, kids clutching red balloons, old folks swapping stories over paper plates. A jazz playlist hummed through the speakers. Nina Simone's voice weaving through the laughter, singing about feeling good. In the heart of it all stood Amara Johnson. Her natural curls swept into a high bun, her brown skin catching the light like she was born to shine. Her navy dress hugged her curves, simple but elegant, and the way she carried herself, shoulders squared, eyes bright, made her look like she owned the room. This was the one-year anniversary of Open Hands, the mobile soup kitchen Amara had built from a dream and a whole lot of grit. Tonight, over 200 people had packed the Chicago Community Center to celebrate donors in suits, volunteers who chopped vegetables beside her, and folks who'd once lined up at her sky-blue van for a hot meal. A banner stretched across the stage, 1 year of Open Hands, feeding hope, one meal at a time. Amara's gaze lingered on the words, her chest tight with pride, gratitude, and something deeper, a quiet awe at how far she'd come. She stepped up to the microphone, her hands steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. The room hushed, faces turning toward her, some familiar, some new, all waiting. Amara took a deep breath, her voice warm and clear, like she was talking to a friend. 3 years ago, she began. I was standing in a train station in Chicago, soaked to the bone with $10 in my pocket, and not a clue what came next. I was hungry, scared, and pretty sure the world had given up on me. Then this guy walks up looking like he'd been through hell and asks for help. I gave him my last $10, not because I'm some hero, but because something in his eyes said he needed it more than I did. The crowd leaned in, hanging on every word. Amara's lips curved into a smile. I thought that was the end of it. But that moment, that one crazy choice changed everything. It brought me here to all of you. It brought me to the man who showed me love isn't just a word. It's a promise. Her eyes flicked to the back of the room where David Carter stood, his blue eyes locked on her, a bouquet of wildflowers in his hand. Her heart skipped, same as it had the first time she saw him. The crowd didn't know the whole story, not yet. Not about the nights she'd slept on park benches, the hunger that clawed at her, or the people who'd tried to tear them apart. A woman who thought she could buy David's heart, a friend who'd made her question her own. But tonight, Amara wanted them to feel what she felt, that one small act of kindness could ripple out, touching lives in ways you never dreamed. Let me take you back, she said, her voice dropping like she was sharing a secret. Back to that rainy day when it all began. 3 years earlier, Chicago Union Station, March 2022. The rain fell in heavy sheets, turning the platform into a slick, puddly mess. Amara stood under the metal awning, her hoodie soaked through her sneakers, squelching with every step. Her curls stuck to her forehead, and her fingers red from the cold. Clutched a crumpled train ticket. She was 26, jobless, and 3 weeks from losing the tiny apartment she'd been holding on to since her mom passed. The $10 in her pocket. Her last $10 felt like a lifeline. Thin and fading fast. She glanced at the schedule board, its neon letters flickering through the mist. Her train to a job interview in the suburbs was due in 10 minutes. It was a long shot, a receptionist gig at a dental office, but it was all she had. Her stomach growled sharp and insistent, reminding her of the instant noodles she'd eaten yesterday. That $10 was supposed to buy a burger after the interview. something to keep her going. She tightened her grip on the bill, tucked deep in her pocket. "Excuse me." The voice was low, almost lost in the rain's steady patter. Amara turned, startled. A man stood a few feet away, his thin jacket plastered to his shoulders, his dark hair slick with water. He looked about 30 with a scruffy beard and blue eyes that seemed too tired for his face. His hands were stuffed in his pockets, but he was shivering, the kind of shiver that came from more than just the weather. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice rough but gentle. "I had my wallet stolen. I need $10 for a ticket home. I swear I'll pay you back if you can trust me." "Please." Amara blinked her fingers, curling tighter around the bill. $10. Her last $10. The only thing standing between her and an empty stomach. She could walk away. She should walk away. But something about him, the way his shoulders slumped, the way his eyes didn't quite meet hers, like he hated asking, made her pause. "You got a name?" she asked, her voice wary but not cold. "David?" he said, glancing up. "David Carter?" She nodded, sizing him up. His lips were chapped, his hands red, but it wasn't just that. There was something in his eyes. Exhaustion, sure, but also a flicker of hope, maybe desperation. She couldn't tell. "How do I know you're not running a hustle?" she said, tilting her head. He gave a small, tired laugh. "You don't. But I'm not. I just want to get home. Got a pen? I'll write down my address, send you the money when I'm back." Amara raised an eyebrow, a smirk tugging at her lips. "You think I'm dumb enough to give a stranger my address? What's next? You want my social security number?" That got a real smile out of him, faint but warm. "Fair point. Look, I'm not going to beg. If you can't help, I get it." The rain kept falling, the platform emptying as the train's headlights cut through the fog. Amara's heart pounded. This was crazy, completely irrational. She needed that money. But then she thought of her mom, the way she'd always slip $1 to the sax player outside their old apartment. "Kindness ain't about what you get back," she used to say. "It's about what you give." Amara sighed, reaching into her pocket. Her fingers brushed the bill. Hesitating, she looked at David again, then slowly pulled it out. The $10 bill was crumpled, slightly damp, but it was all she had. "I don't know why I'm doing this," she said, holding it out. "But if you don't pay me back, I'm hunting you down in Alaska, or wherever you're going." David's eyes widened like he couldn't believe it was real. He reached for the bill, his cold fingers brushing hers. "I promise I'll pay you back," he said, his voice cracking just a little. "What's your name, Amara?" she said, managing a half-smile. "Just get home safe, all right?" He opened his mouth to say more, but the train screeched to a stop, drowning him out. The doors hissed open and a crowd surged forward. David nodded a quick, grateful jerk of his head, then turned and disappeared into the throng. Within seconds, he was gone. Amara stood there, the rain dripping off her hood, her hand empty, her stomach churned, a mix of regret and something lighter, something like peace. She'd done something good, hadn't she? Even if it was dumb, even if it left her with nothing. The loudspeaker crackled, announcing her train. She climbed aboard, her wet sneakers squeaking on the floor, and sank into a window seat. The glass was streaked with rain, blurring the platform as it faded behind her. She didn't know it yet, but that $10, that one reckless act, was the spark that would light up her life. The next day, Chicago Union Station. David Carter stood on the same platform, the rain gone, but the air still heavy with damp. He looked different now, clean-shaven, his hair combed back, his soaked jacket swapped for a tailored coat, In his hand was a crisp $10 bill, unfolded, untouched. He'd come back to find her the girl with the curls and the smirk that had caught him off guard. Amara. He wasn't just some guy down on his luck. He was David Carter, CEO of NovaSpark Technologies, a company revolutionizing education with AI. But for 1 week, he'd chosen to live as a nobody. No wallet, no ID, just the clothes on his back. It was research for his Carter Foundation, a way to understand the people he wanted to help. He'd planned every detail except getting pickpocketed on day 1. Everyone he'd asked for help had turned away. Everyone except her. Amara. She'd given him everything she had, no questions, no strings, and now she was gone. He checked the ticket counter, the coffee stand, even the benches where he'd first seen her. Nothing. No one remembered a girl with curls and a soaked hoodie. David slipped the $10 bill back into his pocket, his fingers lingering on it. He didn't know her last name, didn't know where she lived, but he knew one thing: he wasn't going to forget her. As he walked out of the station, the city humming around him, he made a promise to himself. He'd find her, not just to pay her back, but to thank her, to tell her she'd reminded him what it meant to be human. Back at NovaSpark, he'd face Vanessa Reed, his ex, who still lingered like a shadow, dropping hints about getting back together. He'd meet others who'd try to pull him away from the path Amara had set him on. But none of them would matter. Not like she did. Back at the community center, present day, Amara stepped back from the microphone, the crowd bursting into applause. Her eyes found David again, his smile soft and steady. She hadn't told them everything, not about the woman who'd tried to steal him away, or the friend who'd made her heart waver. That would come later. For now, she wanted them to feel the spark that had started it all, a $10 bill and a moment of trust. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for being here, for believing in open hands, and for proving that we're all in this together. Let's keep spreading kindness, one meal, one moment at a time." As the jazz kicked up again, Amara stepped off the stage, her heart full. She didn't know what tonight would bring. Maybe a proposal under the fairy lights, maybe another chapter with David. But she knew she was exactly where she belonged. Hey, if Amara's story made you believe in the power of a single kind act, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Tell us about a time you gave or received a little kindness that changed everything. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to catch more soul-stirring stories like this one. Together we can keep spreading hope, one story at a time. The Chicago wind bit harder than usual that March evening, slicing through Amara Johnson's soaked hoodie like it had a personal grudge. She sat on a park bench near Lake Michigan, her knees pulled to her chest, her backpack stuffed with 2 changes of clothes, a cracked phone, and her mom's old poetry journal wedged against her side. The city lights glittered across the water, beautiful, but indifferent. Like they didn't care that she had nowhere to go. Her stomach growled a low, angry rumble that had become her constant companion since she'd given away her last $10 at the train station 3 weeks ago. Amara's mind drifted back to that moment, David's tired blue eyes, his promise to pay her back. She'd half expected him to be a con artist, but something about his voice, his shame, had felt real. Now, though, it didn't matter that $10 was gone, and so was her shot at the dental office job. She'd shown up late, soaked and desperate, only to be told the interviewer had left. No second chances, no explanations. Just a tight-lipped receptionist and a long walk back to the city. Since then, things had spiraled. She'd been fired from her part-time gig at a corner store after the manager accused her of stealing a pack of gum. A lie born from his squinting suspicion, the kind Amara knew too well as a black woman in spaces that didn't want her. With no job, no savings and rent due, her landlord had given her 3 days to pack. Now her apartment was someone else's, and Amara was here on a cold bench with nothing but the stars and her thoughts. She pulled her mom's journal from her backpack, the pages worn soft from years of handling. The words written in her mom's looping script were poems about love, struggle, and hope. Amara traced a line with her finger. The dark is just a canvas for your light. She wanted to believe it, but the dark felt bigger than her light these days. She tucked the journal away, her breath hitching. She wouldn't cry. Not yet. "Hey, you good over there?" The voice startled her sharp, but not unkind. Amara looked up to see a woman standing a few feet away, bundled in a mismatched scarf and a puffy coat that had seen better days. She was maybe 40, with deep brown skin and a tangle of braids peeking out from a knit cap. Her eyes were sharp, but her smile was warm, like she'd just told a joke and was waiting for the punchline. "I'm fine," Amara said automatically, pulling her hoodie tighter. The woman raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Girl, you look like you're auditioning for a sad music video." "Mind if I sit?" Amara hesitated, then shrugged. The woman plopped down on the bench, setting a plastic bag between them. The faint smell of fried chicken wafted out, making Amara's stomach twist. "Name's Tasha," the woman said, digging into the bag. "You want half a wing? Got it from Harold's before they closed." Amara's mouth watered, but pride made her shake her head. "I'm good," Tasha snorted, pulling out a piece of chicken. "Pride don't fill your belly, sweetheart. Take it. I ain't trying to watch you starve." Something about Tasha's bluntness broke through Amara's walls. She took the wing, her hands trembling as she bit into it. The crispy skin and warm meat hit her like a memory of home, and her eyes stung. "Thanks," she mumbled, barely getting the word out. Tasha leaned back, chewing thoughtfully. "So, what's your story? You don't look like you've been out here long." Amara swallowed, debating how much to share. "Lost my job. My place. Gave my last $10 to some guy at the train station. Dumb, right?" Tasha laughed, a big throaty sound that echoed across the empty park. "Dumb. Nah, that's hard. Most folks out here wouldn't give a stranger their last dime." "You're a rare one." Amara managed a small smile, but it faded fast. "Rare. Don't pay the bills." "True," Tasha said, wiping her hands on her coat. "But it keeps you human. I used to be a nurse, you know. Had a nice apartment, a car, the whole deal. Then I fell into a bottle and, well, here I am. Point is, you ain't done yet. You're still breathing." Amara looked at her, surprised by the weight of those words. "You don't even know me." "Don't need to," Tasha said, grinning. "I know a fighter when I see one. Come on, let's find somewhere warmer. I know a spot." The spot was a 24-hour public library downtown, its fluorescent lights buzzing like a tired heartbeat. The air smelled of dust and old coffee, and the security guard gave them a weary glance as they slipped inside. Tasha led Amara to a corner behind the nonfiction shelves, where a few worn armchairs sat like an afterthought. They curled up, sharing a blanket Tasha pulled from her bag, and for the first time in days, Amara felt a flicker of safety. "You ever try building a fort as a kid?" Tasha asked, her voice low to avoid the guard's attention. Amara nodded, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Yeah, used to drape sheets over the couch. Mom would pretend she couldn't find me." Tasha grinned. "Well, tonight we're building a fort, grown-ass woman style." She pulled a stack of cardboard from a recycling bin, propping it against the chairs to make a makeshift wall. It was ridiculous, and when the whole thing collapsed in a heap, both of them burst out laughing, stifling the sound with their hands. "Guess I'm no architect," Tasha whispered, still giggling. "But it's better than that bench, right?" Amara nodded, her chest lighter than it had been in weeks. Way better. They settled back, the library's hum wrapping around them. Tasha told stories, Wild, half-true tales about her days as a nurse, like the time she'd convinced a patient she was psychic to get him to take his meds. Amara listened, laughing despite herself, and for a moment the weight of her life lifted. But the next morning the guard wasn't so kind. "You can't sleep here," he said, his voice flat. "Move on." Tasha rolled her eyes, muttering, "Like we're throwing a party in here." But they packed up, stepping back into the cold dawn. The city was waking up, buses rumbling, coffee shops, opening, people hurrying to lives Amara no longer felt part of. She hugged her backpack, the ache in her stomach back with a vengeance. "You got any friends you can crash with?" Tasha asked as they walked toward a McDonald's, hoping to scrounge some free Wi-Fi. Amara thought of Malik, her old high school buddy who worked at a bar downtown. He'd texted her a few times, checking in, but she'd been too ashamed to reply. Maybe she said, "I don't want to be a burden." Tasha gave her a look. "Burden, girl. If someone's offering help, take it. Pride's a lousy roommate." That night, Amara found herself outside the Blue Note, a dive bar where Malik bartended. The neon sign flickered, casting a red glow over the sidewalk, and the faint wail of a saxophone drifted out. She pushed open the door, the smell of beer and fried pickles hitting her like a wave. The place was packed. Locals nursing drinks, a few hipsters snapping photos of their craft beers, and Malik behind the bar, his dreads tied back, his grin as big as ever. "Amara Johnson," he called, spotting her. "Where you been hiding, girl?" She forced a smile, sliding onto a stool. "Just around." Malik raised an eyebrow, pouring her a glass of water without asking. "Around? Huh. You look like you've been wrestling a storm. What's good?" She hesitated, then let it spill the job. "The apartment, the train station." Malik listened, his face softening. "Damn, Mara. Why didn't you call me?" "You know, I got a couch. I didn't want to bother you," she said, sipping the water. "Bother?" He laughed, tossing a rag over his shoulder. "Your family. Stay with me tonight. All right? No arguments." Before she could protest, a drunk guy at the end of the bar leaned over, his breath sour. "Hey, sweetheart, you work here. How about a smile?" Amara stiffened, her jaw tight. Malik stepped in, his voice smooth but firm. "Yo, man, she's with me. How about you chill?" The guy smirked, undeterred. "With you?" "What? You her boyfriend?" Malik didn't miss a beat. He slung an arm around Amara's shoulders, pulling her close with a dramatic flourish. "Damn right. I'm her boyfriend. You want a problem, or you want another beer?" The guy muttered something and backed off, and the bar erupted in laughter. Amara couldn't help but grin, elbowing Malik's boyfriend. "Really?" "Hey, I'm a method actor," Malik said, winking. "Had to sell it." For a moment she felt like her old self, the Amara who used to dance at block parties and trade bad puns with Malik in algebra class. But when he offered her his couch again, she saw the worry in his eyes, and shame crept back in. She wasn't that girl anymore. Not now. The next few days blurred into a routine of survival. Amara crashed at Malik's tiny apartment, sleeping on a lumpy couch that smelled faintly of weed and pizza. She spent her days at the library with Tasha, scouring job boards on a borrowed laptop, but every application felt like shouting into a void. No address, no phone, no references. How was she supposed to compete? The word hope started to feel like a taunt. One afternoon, as she and Tasha sat in a park eating day-old donuts Tasha had charmed from a bakery, a guy approached them. He was tall, with warm brown skin and a fade haircut, carrying a saxophone case slung over his shoulder. His smile was easy, like he'd never met a stranger. "Hey, y'all mind if I join?" he asked, nodding at the bench. Tasha smirked. "Only if you got more donuts." He laughed, sitting down. "Fresh out?" But I got a song if you want one. I'm Jared, by the way. Amara studied him, cautious but curious. You play that thing? She asked, nodding at the saxophone. Since I was 10, Jared said, patting the case gig at the Blue Note tonight. Y'all should come free wings if you know the right people. Tasha nudged Amara. He's flirting with you, girl. Amara rolled her eyes, but a smile slipped through. I don't do free wings. Too many strings attached. Jared clutched his chest, mock offended. Strings. I'm a gentleman. Tell you what, come to the show and I'll play something just for you. No strings, just vibes. His earnestness was disarming, and Amara found herself laughing a real laugh, the kind that felt like sunlight. We'll see, she said, but her heart lifted a little as Jared walked off, whistling a tune. Tasha gave Amara a knowing look. That boy's trouble. Good trouble, but trouble. Amara shook her head, but she couldn't deny the spark. Jared was warm, easy to talk to, and his smile stuck with her longer than it should have. Still, she wasn't in a place for sparks. Not when she was barely holding on. That evening, Amara and Tasha wandered into a soup kitchen on Monroe Street, drawn by the promise of a hot meal. The sign read, Hope Table, and the smell of vegetable stew and cornbread greeted them like an old friend. Inside, volunteers bustled around, ladling soup into chipped bowls. Amara's eyes landed on Jared, who was wiping down tables, his saxophone case propped against a wall. He spotted her and grinned. Told you I know the right people. Grab a bowl. It's on me. Amara hesitated, pride prickling, but Tasha was already in line. Don't make me drag you, she said, and Amara relented, taking a bowl. The stew was warm, hearty, and for the first time in weeks, she felt full. Not just her stomach, but something deeper. Jared slid into a chair across from her, his smile softer now. You ever think about volunteering here? We could use someone with your energy. Amara raised an eyebrow. You don't even know me. I know you shared a donut with Tasha instead of eating it all yourself, he said, leaning back. That's enough for me, she laughed, shaking her head. You're smooth. I'll give you that. Smooth. Jared clutched his heart again. I'm just trying to keep up with you. Their banter was easy, natural, and Amara felt a warmth she hadn't expected. But as she looked at Jared, she thought of David, the stranger from the train station. She didn't know why his face lingered. Maybe it was the way he'd looked at her like she was the only person who'd seen him. She shook it off. David was gone, and Jared was here. Real and present. Meanwhile, across town, David Carter sat in his office at NovaSpark Technologies, the city skyline glittering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The $10 bill from Amara sat on his desk, a quiet reminder of the girl he couldn't forget. He'd told his mother Ruth about her, a girl with curls and a heart bigger than her circumstances. Ruth, a former volunteer with the Carter Foundation, had listened with a knowing smile. You'll find her, she'd said. People like that don't just disappear. David wasn't so sure. He'd checked the train station, asked around, but Amara was a ghost. Still, he kept the bill a talisman of something he couldn't name. Vanessa Reed, his ex and NovaSpark's marketing director, had noticed his distraction, her sharp eyes missing nothing. Still daydreaming about your mystery girl. She'd teased, her tone light but edged. You know, David, not every stray needs saving. He'd brushed it off, but Vanessa's words lingered, a warning of the complications to come. David didn't know it yet, but his path was about to cross Amara's again, and when it did, everything would change. Amara left Hope Table that night with a full stomach and a flicker of hope. Jared had slipped her a flyer for the kitchen's volunteer schedule, his number scrawled on the back. No pressure, he'd said, but his smile said otherwise. Tasha, walking beside her, nudged her arm. You better watch out, she said, grinning. That boy's got it bad. Amara shook her head, but she couldn't deny the butterflies. She wasn't ready for anything. Not love, not even like. But for the first time in weeks, she felt like she wasn't falling alone. The Hope Table soup kitchen hummed with life on a chilly April afternoon, the kind of place where the smell of cornbread and vegetable stew could make even the hardest day feel softer. Amara Johnson moved through the kitchen with a quiet confidence, her curls tucked under a hairnet, her apron dusted with flour. She'd been volunteering here for 2 weeks ever since Jared Brooks had slipped her that flyer with his number scrawled on the back. The work chopping carrots, ladling soup, wiping down tables, gave her something to hold onto a tether to a world that had started to slip away. The dining area was a mix of faces, weary men in worn jackets, mothers coaxing kids to eat their greens, a few volunteers like Jared, who was currently stacking chairs with a grin that could light up the room. Amara caught his eye, and he winked, holding up a broom like it was a microphone, and lip-syncing to the jazz playing softly from a battered radio. Miles Davis, cool and smooth. She laughed, shaking her head, but the warmth in her chest was hard to ignore. "Keep flirting like that, and Carol's gonna make you scrub pots," she called, nodding toward the kitchen manager, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, who ruled Hope Table with a clipboard and a heart of gold. Jared clutched his chest, mock offended. "Flirting. I'm just bringing culture to this place. You coming to my gig tonight or what?" Amara hesitated, stirring a pot of stew. Jared had been asking her to his saxophone shows at the Blue Note for days, his invitations wrapped in that easy, playful charm. Part of her wanted to say yes, to lose herself in music and laughter, to feel like a person again, not just a survivor, but another part. The part that still ached from giving away her last $10 held back. She wasn't ready for sparks, not when her life was a pile of ash. "We'll see," she said, her standard dodge, but her smile softened the blow. Jared sighed dramatically, sweeping the floor. "You're killing me, Amara. One of these days, you're gonna say yes, and I'm gonna play the best damn song you ever heard." She laughed, but before she could reply, the bell above the door jingled. Amara glanced up and her breath caught. A man stepped inside, his tailored coat out of place among the chipped tables and plastic chairs. His hair was neatly combed, his face clean-shaven, but those blue eyes tired, searching, impossibly familiar, stopped her cold. David Carter. Her spoon froze mid-stir, the kitchen fading around her. It was him, the guy from the train station, the one she'd given her last $10 to. Except he didn't look like a guy down on his luck anymore. He looked like he belonged in a boardroom, not a soup kitchen in the heart of Chicago. David's gaze swept the room, then landed on her. His lips parted, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. "Amara," he said, his voice low, like he wasn't sure she was real. She blinked, setting the spoon down slowly. "David." The room seemed to shrink, the chatter and clatter fading to a hum. Jared, still sweeping, glanced over his brow, furrowing. Carol looked up from her clipboard, sensing the shift in the air, but Amara barely noticed. She stepped around the counter, her heart pounding, a mix of confusion and something she couldn't name. You're here," she said, stopping a few feet away. "What's going on? You look different." David finished, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Yeah, I owe you an explanation. And $10. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a crisp $10 bill. Amara stared at it, then at him, her mind spinning. "You kept it. Couldn't let it go," he said, his voice softer now. "Not after what you did for me." Amara folded her arms, her apron crinkling. "Okay, hold up. You said you needed a ticket home. You didn't say anything about." She gestured at his coat, his polished shoes. "This." David's smile faded, replaced by something earnest. Can we talk? Somewhere quiet? She hesitated, glancing at Jared, who was watching with a mix of curiosity and something sharper. Carol caught her eye and nodded a silent, "Go ahead." Amara untied her apron, her hands unsteady, and led David to a small office in the back, where the smell of stew was fainter and the jazz was just a murmur. The office was cramped, with a desk piled high with papers and a single flickering bulb overhead. Amara leaned against the desk, arms crossed, while David stood by the door, the $10 bill still in his hand. "All right," she said, her voice steady but curious. "Start talking. Who are you really?" David took a breath, running a hand through his hair. "My name's David Carter. I'm the CEO of Nova Spark Technologies. We build AI software for education. But 3 weeks ago, I wasn't that guy. I was, well, nobody. On purpose." Amara raised an eyebrow. "On purpose?" He nodded, his eyes meeting hers. "I run a non-profit, the Carter Foundation. We work on solutions for homelessness, poverty, systemic gaps. I wanted to understand what it's really like out there, so I went undercover for a week. No wallet, no ID, just me and the streets. Except I got pickpocketed on day 1, and suddenly I was stuck." Amara's mouth opened, then closed. "So you were, what, playing homeless, and I was your charity case?" "No," David said quickly, stepping closer. "You weren't a case. You were the only person who saw me. Everyone else walked away." "Amara, you gave me your last $10. Do you know how rare that is?" She looked away, her throat tight. "I was just trying to do something right. Didn't think it'd turn into whatever this is." David held out the bill, his voice soft. "This is me keeping my promise, and it's me asking you to let me do more. I want you to come work with us at the Carter Foundation. We need people like you, people with heart who get it." Amara stared at the bill, then at him. "Work with you? I don't have a degree. I don't even have a place to live right now." "Doesn't matter," he said, his eyes steady. "You've got something most people don't. You've lived it. You know what it's like to have nothing and still give everything. That's what we need." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The bulb flickered, casting shadows across the room. Amara's mind raced. Part of her wanted to say yes to grab this chance, but another part screamed that it was too good to be true. People like her didn't get offers like this. Not in her world. "I'll think about it," she said, finally taking the bill. Her fingers brushed his, and a spark ran through her, quick and unexpected. David smiled, a real smile that made his eyes crinkle. "That's all I ask. I'll be in touch." The next week, Amara found herself stepping into the Carter Foundation's headquarters, a renovated warehouse in the West Loop, filled with light, laughter, and the buzz of collaboration. The walls were covered with photos and quotes from people the foundation had helped: kids in coding camps, families in new homes. Amara felt out of place in her thrift store jeans and hoodie, but David greeted her like she belonged, introducing her to the team as the woman who's going to change the game. The team was a mix: young coders, social workers, a few former clients turned staff. But one person stood out: Vanessa Reed, the foundation's marketing director. She was all blonde hair and designer heels, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. When David introduced Amara, Vanessa's eyes flicked over her, cool and assessing Amara. "Right," Vanessa said, her voice syrupy. "David's told me about you. You're the train station girl, so..." "Inspiring." Amara's jaw tightened, catching the edge in her tone. "Just here to help," she said, keeping her voice even. "Oh, I'm sure," Vanessa said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "David loves his projects. Don't you, David?" David's expression tightened, but he didn't take the bait. Amara's here because she's got vision. Let's get her started. Amara spent the day shadowing a coordinator learning about community programs and grant writing, but Vanessa's presence lingered her words, echoing like a warning. At lunch, Amara overheard her talking to a colleague. David's got a soft spot for strays. It's sweet, but it doesn't last. The words stung, but Amara pushed them down. She wasn't here for Vanessa. She was here for herself. That evening, Amara stayed late, poring over a proposal for a youth outreach program. David joined her, bringing 2 cups of coffee and a playlist of Coltrane that filled the office with warm, soulful notes. The room was dim lit only by a desk lamp, and the city lights sparkled through the windows. "You're picking this up fast," David said, leaning over her shoulder to read the proposal. His sleeve brushed her arm, and she felt that spark again. Sharper this time. "Just trying not to mess it up," she said, her voice lighter than she felt. He laughed, sitting on the edge of the desk. "You're not messing anything up. You're already better at this than half the MBAs we've hired." Amara looked up, their eyes locking. The air felt charged, like the moment before a storm. David reached for a stray curl that had escaped her bun, his fingers brushing her cheek as he tucked it behind her ear. Her breath caught her heart racing. For a second she thought he might lean in, and she wasn't sure she'd stop him. But then the door swung open and Vanessa stepped in, her heels clicking. "Oh, sorry," she said, her tone anything but apologetic. "Didn't mean to interrupt." "Whatever this is." David pulled back, his jaw tight. "Just working, Vanessa." "Of course," she said, her smile sharp. "Amara, don't stay too late. You'll burn out before you even start." Amara forced a nod, her face burning. Vanessa left. But the moment was gone, replaced by a knot of doubt. Was Vanessa right? Was she just a project to David? The doubt grew over the next few days, fueled by Vanessa's subtle jabs. "David's always been a fixer," she'd say, or, "You're lucky he's so generous." Amara started to wonder if she was out of her depth, not just at the foundation, but with David. Meanwhile, Jared kept showing up at Hope Table, his easy smiles and saxophone tunes pulling at her heart. One night, he convinced her to come to his gig, and as he played a slow, soulful version of My Funny Valentine, his eyes never left hers. The crowd faded, and for a moment it was just them, the music wrapping around her like a warm blanket. After the show, Jared walked her to the bus stop, his hands in his pockets. "So you ever gonna tell me what's got you so guarded?" he asked, his voice gentle. Amara sighed, the neon glow of the bar sign casting shadows on her face. "Just life, Jared. It's complicated." He nodded, his smile soft. "I get it. But if you ever want to uncomplicate it, I'm here. No pressure, just vibes." She laughed, but her heart was a tangle. Jared was safe, familiar, a piece of her world. David was a leap into the unknown, a world where people like Vanessa waited to push her out. The turning point came a week later at a team meeting where Amara presented her youth outreach proposal. Vanessa was there, her pen tapping like a countdown. Amara's hands shook as she spoke, outlining a program to teach coding to kids in underserved neighborhoods. Halfway through, Vanessa interrupted, her voice smooth but cutting. "It's a sweet idea," she said, "but it's a bit idealistic, don't you think? We need scalable projects, not passion projects." Amara's face burned, but she held her ground. "It's not just passion. Kids in these neighborhoods need skills, not handouts. Coding's a way and a way up, I've seen it." The room was quiet. The team watching David's eyes were on her, steady, encouraging. Amara took a breath and kept going, her voice stronger now, weaving in stories from her own childhood, from the kids she'd met at Hope Table. When she finished, the room erupted in applause, even from the coders who'd been skeptical. Later, as the team filed out, Vanessa approached her, smile tight. "Nice save," she said, but her eyes said something else. Jealousy, maybe, or fear. Amara didn't care. For the first time, she felt like she belonged. David caught up with her in the hallway, his grin wide. "You were incredible in there. Vanessa's just rattled because you're the real deal." Amara's heart lifted, but doubt lingered. "You sure about that? I'm not exactly her idea of a team player." He stepped closer, his voice low. "You're my idea of one. And that's what matters." The air crackled again, but this time Amara stepped back, her smile cautious. "We'll see," she said, echoing her words to Jared. But as she walked away, her heart was racing, torn between two men, two worlds and a future she was only beginning to believe in. The Chicago summer sun beat down on the West Loop, turning the asphalt into a shimmering haze. Inside the Carter Foundation's headquarters, Amara Johnson sat at a cluttered desk, her notebook open to a sketch of a sky-blue van with open hands painted in gentle lettering. It was her dream, a mobile soup kitchen that would bring hot meals and hope to the city's forgotten corners, the kind of places she'd once called home. The foundation had greenlit the project a week ago, and Amara was riding a high she hadn't felt in years. But today that high was starting to crack. She glanced at the budget spreadsheet on her laptop, the numbers glaring back like a bad report card. The van's retrofitting was over budget, the permits were stuck in City Hall limbo, and a group of residents in one of the target neighborhoods had started a petition to block the van from parking near their streets. "We don't want trouble." They'd written a polite way of saying they didn't want those people around. Amara's stomach twisted. She'd faced that kind of coded rejection her whole life, but seeing it aimed at her dream hurt worse than she'd expected. "Rough day." David Carter's voice pulled her out of her thoughts. He leaned against the doorway, his tie loosened, a cup of coffee in his hand. His blue eyes, warm and steady, made her heart skip, but the weight of the day kept her grounded. "Rough week," she said, closing her laptop with a sigh. "This city loves to make things complicated." David stepped inside, setting the coffee on her desk. "Chicago's got a lot of heart, but it's got a lot of fight, too. You're tougher than it is." Amara managed a small smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Hope so. Because right now it feels like I'm fighting a losing battle." He sat on the edge of her desk, his sleeve brushing her arm. "You're not losing. You're just in the messy middle. Every big idea hits this point. Keep going." His words were a lifeline. But before she could reply, Vanessa Reed's voice cut through the room, sharp and syrupy. "Amara, you're still here. Don't you ever sleep." Amara's jaw tightened as Vanessa sauntered in her blonde hair, gleaming under the fluorescent lights, her designer blazer screaming money. She carried a tablet, her nails tapping the screen like a metronome. David's expression flickered. Annoyance, maybe, but he stayed calm. "Just wrapping up," Amara said, her voice even. "What's up?" Vanessa's smile was all teeth. "Oh, just checking on our star project. I heard there's some resistance to open hands. People are talking, wondering if it's the right fit for the foundation." Amara's hands clenched under the desk. "People or you?" Vanessa laughed, a tinkling sound that set Amara's nerves on edge. "Don't be so sensitive. I'm just saying. David's put a lot of faith in you. It'd be a shame if it didn't pan out." David stood, his voice firm. "Vanessa, enough. Amara's got this. If you've got concerns, bring them to the team meeting." Vanessa's smile didn't falter, but her eyes flashed. Of course, David, just looking out for the foundation. She turned on her heel, her heels clicking as she left. But the air felt heavier, like she'd left a storm behind. Amara exhaled, her shoulders slumping. "She's got it out for me." David shook his head. his hand brushing hers for a moment. She's got it out for anyone who threatens her spotlight. Ignore her. You're doing something real. Amara wanted to believe him, but Vanessa's words clung like damp clothes. Was she just a project to David? A feel-good story for his foundation? The doubt gnawed at her, and it wasn't just Vanessa. Jared Brooks, with his easy smiles and saxophone melodies, was tugging at her heart too. He was safe, familiar, a piece of her world. David was a leap into the unknown, and Amara wasn't sure she could afford to fall. That evening, Amara headed to Hope Table, needing the comfort of familiar faces. The soup kitchen was quieter than usual, the lunch rush over the air still warm with the smell of baked beans and cornbread. Tasha was there peeling potatoes with a grin, her braids swinging as she hummed an old Aretha Franklin tune. "Girl, you look like you're carrying the whole city on your shoulders," Tasha said, tossing a potato peel into a bucket. "What's wrong?" Amara grabbed a peeler, sliding into the rhythm of the work. "Just everything. The van's hitting roadblocks, and there's this woman at work who's making it her mission to trip Humant to see if I'm the right fit." Tasha snorted, her knife flashing as she sliced a potato. "Sounds like she's scared you're gonna outshine her." "Keep doing you, Amara. She'll trip over her own ego eventually." Amara laughed, but it was half-hearted. Easier said than done. And then there's Jared acting all sweet, and David. I don't know what's going on there. Tasha's eyes lit up. "Oh, we got drama." "Spill it, girl." Before Amara could answer, Jared walked in, his saxophone case slung over his shoulder, his smile as bright as ever. "You all talking about me?" he teased, grabbing a carrot from the counter and taking a bite. Tasha cackled. "Boy, you wish. Go make yourself useful and chop something." Jared saluted, but his eyes lingered on Amara, soft and searching. "You okay, Mara? You seem off." She sighed, setting her peeler down. "Just a lot on my plate. The van's in trouble, and I'm not sure I'm cut out for this." Jared's smile faded, replaced by something serious. "You're cut out for anything. You're the toughest person I know. Whatever's going on, you'll figure it out." His words were warm, but they only deepened her confusion. Jared was steady, real, a reminder of the life she'd known before everything fell apart. But David was a spark, a challenge, a door to a world she'd never dared dream of, and Vanessa was determined to slam that door shut. The next day, things got worse. At a community meeting to discuss open hands, a group of residents voiced their concerns, their voices loud and unyielding. The meeting was held in a rec center gym, the air thick with the smell of sweat and bleach. Amara stood at the front, her hands trembling as she held a microphone, David and Vanessa seated behind her. "We don't want a soup kitchen in our neighborhood," a man in a polo shirt said, his arms crossed. "It'll bring trouble, loitering, crime. We're trying to keep this area safe." Amara's throat tightened, but she forced her voice to stay steady. "Open hands isn't about trouble. It's about helping people, your neighbors, your community. We're bringing food, not problems." Another woman stood, her voice sharp. "That's what they always say. But we know how this goes. You bring in the homeless and property values tank." The room erupted in murmurs, and Amara's heart sank. She glanced at David, who gave her a nod, but Vanessa's smirk was impossible to miss. The meeting dragged on, the opposition growing louder, and by the end, Amara felt like she'd been run over. Back at the foundation, Vanessa didn't miss her chance. "Tough crowd," she said, her tone dripping with false sympathy. "Maybe Open Hands needs a different face. Someone the community trusts." Amara's fists clenched. "If you've got something to say, Vanessa, just say it." Vanessa's smile was icy. I'm just saying, David needs people who can deliver. Not everyone's cut out for the spotlight. David stepped in, his voice low but firm. Amara's delivering. The community will come around. We just need to show them what Open Hands is about. Vanessa shrugged, but her eyes said she wasn't done. Amara left the office that day, feeling like she was drowning the weight of the project. The community and her own doubts, pulling her under. That night, Amara went to the Blue Note to clear her head. Malik was behind the bar, slinging drinks, and Jared was on stage, his saxophone weaving a slow, soulful melody that felt like it was speaking directly to her. She sat in a corner, nursing a soda, her mom's poetry journal open in her lap. She'd written a new line that morning. The heart bends, but it doesn't break. She wasn't sure she believed it. Jared finished his set and joined her, his shirt damp with sweat, his smile soft. "You made it," he said, sliding into the booth. "Thought you were going to ghost me again." She laughed, closing the journal. "Needed a break. You were great up there." "Thanks," he said, his eyes searching hers. "But seriously, Mara, what's going on? You're not yourself." She sighed, the words spilling out before she could stop them. The community meeting, Vanessa's jabs, the fear that she was letting everyone down. Jared listened, his hand resting close to hers, his presence a quiet anchor. "You're not letting anyone down," he said when she finished. "You're fighting for something real. That's more than most people do." Amara looked at him, her heart a tangle. "Jared, why are you so good to me?" He leaned closer, his voice low. "Because I see you, Amara, not the volunteer, not the project manager, just you. And I really like what I see." Her breath caught the air between them, charged. For a moment she thought he might kiss her, and she wasn't sure she'd pull away. But then Malik called Jared over to help with a spilled tray, and the moment broke, leaving Amara's heart racing. The next morning, Amara woke to a text from Vanessa, a group message to the team. "Big meeting tomorrow to review Open Hands progress. Let's make sure we're all on the same page." Attached was a forwarded email chain accidentally included where Vanessa had written to a board member. "Amara's passionate, but passion doesn't guarantee results. We need to consider all options." Amara's blood boiled, but the anger gave way to resolve. She wasn't going to let Vanessa win. She spent the day planning a community event to showcase Open Hands, a pop-up meal service with music, games, and stories from the people it would serve. It was a gamble, but she was done playing safe. As she left the foundation, David caught up with her, his expression worried. "I saw Vanessa's email." "I'm sorry, Amara. She's out of line." Amara shook her head, her voice firm. "I don't need apologies. I need to make this work. Are you with me?" David's eyes softened, a smile breaking through. "All the way." She nodded, her heart pounding. The event was her last shot, and with Vanessa, Jared, and her own doubts closing in failure, wasn't an option. But as she walked home, the city lights flickering around her, she felt a spark of hope. She was Amara Johnson, and she wasn't done fighting. The Chicago summer evening was alive with possibility. The air thick with the smell of grilled corn and the hum of a jazz quartet playing in the distance. The community lot in the West Loop had been transformed into a vibrant pop-up event for Open Hands. Amara Johnson's mobile soup kitchen. Strings of Edison bulbs crisscrossed above, casting a warm glow over tables piled with fried chicken, collard greens, and peach cobbler. Kids ran through the crowd clutching balloons while volunteers in Open Hands aprons served steaming bowls of gumbo to a mix of residents, donors, and folks who'd once been on the receiving end of Amara's meals. A banner fluttered in the breeze. Open Hands, feeding hope. One meal at a time. Amara stood near the sky-blue van, her curls loose and glowing under the lights, her navy sundress swaying as she greeted guests. Her heart pounded a mix of nerves and hope. This event was her last chance to win over the community, to prove that Open Hands wasn't a threat, but a lifeline. The petition against the van still loomed, and Vanessa Reed's accidental email had lit a fire under Amara. She wasn't just fighting for her project, she was fighting for herself. Tasha, her friend from the streets, was there, dishing out cornbread with a grin. "Girl, you pulled this off," she said, nudging Amara. "Look at these folks. They're eating your food and your vibe." Amara laughed, but her eyes scanned the crowd, landing on David Carter. He was helping set up a kids' art station, his sleeves rolled up, his smile easy. Her heart skipped, but doubt lingered. Vanessa's words, "David needs people who can deliver," echoed in her mind. And Jared Brooks' confession at the Blue Note hadn't helped. Jared was here too, setting up his saxophone for a performance, his warm brown eyes catching hers across the lot. She looked away, her chest tight. Two men. Two worlds and a dream on the line. She couldn't afford to lose focus. The event kicked off with a speech from Carol, the Hope table manager, who praised Amara's vision. "This woman's got heart," Carol said, her voice booming, "and heart's what builds community." The crowd cheered, but Amara noticed a group of residents near the back. Arms crossed their faces. Skeptical. They were the petition leaders, and their presence felt like a storm cloud. As the night wore on, Amara worked the crowd, sharing stories of the people. Open Hands would serve families like the ones she'd grown up with, kids like she'd been, but the skeptics stayed stone-faced and her hope began to waver. Then a moment changed everything. Amara was refilling a tray of cornbread when an older man approached, his polo shirt crisp, his expression guarded. She recognized him from the community meeting. Mr. Thompson, the petition's ringleader. Her stomach dropped, but she forced a smile. "Evening. Mr. Thompson," she said, offering him a plate. "Try some gumbo. It's my mom's recipe." He hesitated, then took the plate, his eyes narrowing. "You're the one pushing this van, right? I'm not here to eat. I'm here to see if you're serious." Amara's smile didn't falter, but her heart raced. "I'm as serious as it gets. Open Hands is about helping people, not hurting them. Let me show you." She led him to the van, explaining it set up solar panels for sustainability, a kitchen designed to serve hundreds. As they talked, she noticed a faded pin on his jacket, a small dove with the words, "Freedom, Summer 64. Her breath caught. Her mom had worn a pin like that, a memento from her days volunteering in the civil rights movement. "That pin," Amara said, her voice soft. "My mom had one just like it. She worked voter registration drives in Mississippi, said it was the hardest, best thing she ever did." Mr. Thompson's expression shifted, a flicker of surprise. "Your mom was in Mississippi in 64. Amara nodded, her throat tight. "Yeah, her name was Lena Johnson. She used to tell me stories about a man named Thompson who helped her when she got stranded in Jackson, saved her from a bad situation." The man's eyes widened, his hand touching the pin, Lena Johnson. "That was my uncle. He talked about a young woman he helped, said she was fearless. That was your mother." Amara's heart pounded, the world tilting. "Yeah, that was her." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Mr. Thompson's face softened, the hardness melting away. "I didn't know," he said quietly. "Your mom, she meant something to my family. If this van is your way of carrying her light, I'm not going to stand in your way." Amara's eyes stung, but she held his gaze. "It is, and I promise we'll do right by this community." He nodded, a small smile breaking through. "All right, Ms. Johnson. You've got my support." As he walked away, Amara stood frozen, her mom's poetry journal heavy in her pocket. The dark is just a canvas for your light. She'd found a connection, a spark of history that turned an enemy into an ally. The crowd didn't know it yet, but that moment was the turning point for Open Hands. The event rolled on the jazz quartet, kicking into a lively rendition of Sweet Home Chicago. Jared took the stage, his saxophone weaving a melody that made the crowd sway. Amara watched her heart a tangle. His music felt like a call pulling her back to the world she knew, but David's presence, steady, challenging, kept her anchored to the one she was building. Then her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number with a photo attached. Her breath caught as she opened it. David and Vanessa standing close at what looked like a rooftop bar, her hand on his arm, his smile warm. The caption read, "Thought you should know." Amara's chest tightened, her fingers trembling. It was Vanessa's doing. She knew it, but the photo looked real, and doubt crashed over her like a wave. Had David been playing her? Was she just a project like Vanessa said? She slipped behind the van needing air. Jared found her, his saxophone case slung over his shoulder. His face worried Mara. "You okay? You look like you saw a ghost." She shook her head, her voice shaky. "I'm fine, just a lot." He stepped closer, his voice soft. "You don't have to do this alone. You know, I meant what I said the other night. I care about you, Amara, more than you probably realize." Her eyes met his, and for a moment she wanted to lean into him to choose the safety of his world. But before she could speak, David appeared, his expression tense. "Amara, can we talk?" he asked, glancing at Jared. Jared's jaw tightened, but he stepped back. "I'll catch you later." Amara nodded, her heart pounding as Jared walked away. She turned to David, holding up her phone. "What's this?" David's eyes widened as he saw the photo, Amara. "That's not what it looks like. That was months ago before I met you. Vanessa's trying to mess with you." She wanted to believe him, but the doubt was a knife. "Why should I trust you? Vanessa's been saying I'm just your charity case." Maybe she's right. David stepped closer, his voice urgent. "You're not a charity case. You're the strongest person I know. That photo's a lie, and Vanessa's scared because you're changing everything for the foundation for me." His words hit her hard, but she wasn't ready to let go of the hurt. "I need time, David." He nodded, his eyes pained. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." The event ended on a high note. Mr. Thompson spoke to the crowd, withdrawing the petition and praising Open Hands as a legacy of compassion. The residents cheered and the foundation pledged additional funding. Amara stood by the van, the weight of the day lifting, but her heart was still heavy. She'd saved her dream, but at what cost? As the crowd thinned, David approached, holding a small envelope. "Open it," he said, his voice soft. Inside was the $10 bill from the train station, folded neatly. Amara's breath caught. "You kept it?" "Always," he said, stepping closer. "It's not just money. It's the moment I knew you were different. The moment I started falling for you." Her eyes widened, but before she could speak, he knelt, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. The crowd hushed, sensing something big. He opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring, its diamond catching the light. "Amara Johnson," he said, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "You gave me your last $10 when you had nothing. You gave me hope when I was lost. Let me spend the rest of my life giving you everything I have. Will you marry me?" The world stopped. Amara's eyes filled with tears, the photo, the doubt, the fear fading in the face of his love. She thought of her mom, of the nights on benches, of the girl who'd trusted a stranger. And she knew. "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Yes." The crowd erupted, Tasha whooping loudest of all. David slid the ring onto her finger, pulling her into a kiss that was soft, then deepening, the world melting away. The jazz quartet struck up a new tune, and for a moment it was just them, wrapped in light and love. Later at David's apartment, the city sparkled through floor-to-ceiling windows, a sea of lights stretching into the night. Amara stood by the glass, her ring glinting, her heart full. David came up behind her, his arms circling her waist, his breath warm against her neck. "You sure about this?" He teased his lips, brushing her ear. "I'm kind of a lot." She turned her hands, sliding up his chest, a smile playing on her lips. "Good thing. I'm tougher than you." Their kiss was slow at first, then hungry, a fire that had been building for months. And his hands found the small of her back, pulling her closer, her fingers tugging at his shirt. The world narrowed to their breath, their touch, the city lights blurring as they moved to the couch. Clothes fell away, and the moment was theirs, intense, tender, a promise sealed in whispers and warmth. Afterward, they lay tangled in a blanket, laughing as Amara teased. "You better not lose that $10 again." David grinned, kissing her forehead. "Never. It's ours now." The next morning, Amara returned to Hope Table, needing to ground herself. Jared was there, wiping down tables, his smile softer than usual. He'd seen the ring, heard the news. He set his rag down, his eyes meeting hers. "I'm happy for you, Mara," he said, his voice steady. "You deserve the world." Her throat tightened. "Jared, He shook his head, a small smile breaking through. "No need. You're where you're supposed to be. Just save me a dance at the wedding, yeah?" She laughed, tears spilling. "Deal." As she left, Tasha pulled her into a hug, whispering, "You did it, girl. You built a dream and found love. Ain't nobody stopping you now." Amara nodded, her heart full. Open Hands was safe. Her future with David was bright, and the cracks in her foundation had only made her stronger. But the biggest test was still ahead, building a life across cities with Vanessa's shadow lingering, and a love that would need to endure distance. The Chicago skyline glittered under a crisp September evening, the city alive with the hum of early fall. Inside the newly opened Open Hands Community Center, Amara Johnson stood in the middle of a bustling celebration, her curls loose and glowing under soft overhead lights. The center was a dream come true, a sprawling space with a kitchen, showers, job training rooms, and an art studio where kids painted murals of hope. The air smelled of fresh-baked cornbread and roasted vegetables, and a jazz playlist. Ella Fitzgerald's voice, smooth as honey, wove through the laughter of volunteers, staff, and guests. A banner hung above Open Hands Community Center, a home for hope. Amara, now the center's director, wore a tailored blazer over a simple dress, her engagement ring catching the light as she greeted guests. It had been a year since the pop-up event that saved Open Hands, and in that time the mobile soup kitchen had grown into a network of 3 vans serving over 3,000 meals a week across Chicago. The center was the next step, a permanent space where people could rebuild, not just survive. Amara's heart swelled with pride, but it was tinged with a quiet ache. David Carter, her fiancé, was in New York leading the Carter Foundation's new urban outreach initiative. Their love was strong, but distance was a test. They were still learning to navigate. She moved through the crowd, shaking hands and sharing stories. Tasha, now a volunteer coordinator at the center, was dishing out sweet potato pie with her usual flair, her braids swinging as she teased a kid for sneaking an extra slice. "Boy, you better save some for the rest of us," she called her laugh, echoing. Amara's old friend was setting up a DJ booth, his dreads bouncing as he tested the sound system. Carol, the Hope table manager, stood near the art studio, her clipboard swapped for a glass of lemonade, her smile proud as she watched Amara work the room. But it was Jared Brooks who caught Amara's eye standing by a mural of a Chicago skyline painted by the center's first art class. His saxophone case rested at his feet, and his smile was softer than it had been a year ago when he'd stepped back to let her choose. David. Amara walked over, her heart warm but steady. "Hey you," she said, nudging his arm. "Thanks for coming. You playing tonight?" Jared grinned, his eyes crinkling. "Wouldn't miss it, Mara. And yeah, I got a little something planned. Gotta keep the vibes right." She laughed, but her expression softened. "Jared, I never really thanked you for being there for everything." He shook his head, his voice gentle. "You don't owe me thanks. You're happy and that's enough. Just don't forget that dance you promised at the wedding." Her throat tightened and she pulled him into a hug. "Deal." As Jared headed to the stage, Amara's phone buzzed a video call from David. She slipped into the quiet of the art studio, the smell of paint and clay grounding her as she answered. David's face filled the screen, his blue eyes bright, despite the late hour in New York. He was in his office, the city skyline sparkling behind him, a familiar $10 bill framed on his desk. "Hey, beautiful," he said, his voice warm. "How's the big night going?" Amara smiled, leaning against a table. "It's amazing. Wish you were here to see it." The kids painted a mural. Tasha's stealing the show, and Malik's about to blow out the speakers. David laughed, running a hand through his hair. "Sounds like Chicago's finest." "I'm proud of you, Amara. You built this." "We built it," she corrected, her voice soft. "You believed in me when I didn't." His expression softened, a flicker of longing in his eyes. "I miss you. Chicago or New York, you're still my home." Her heart ached, but it was a good ache, the kind that came from loving deeply. "Miss you too. But we're making it work, right?" "Always," he said, then grinned. "Speaking of, I've got a surprise. Check your email. Curious." Amara opened her inbox, finding a flight confirmation David was coming to Chicago next week. Her face lit up. "You sneak. Why didn't you tell me?" "Wanted to see that smile," he said, his voice teasing. "Get ready, because I'm not letting you out of my sight for at least a weekend." She laughed, tears pricking her eyes. "Deal." The celebration hit its peak as Jared took the stage, his saxophone singing a soulful rendition of "A Change Is Gonna Come." The crowd swayed some with tears in their eyes, and Amara felt the weight of the past year. The benches, the hunger, the doubt, melt into something new. She'd turned pain into purpose, and this center was proof. But the night wasn't without surprises. As Amara helped clear tables, Vanessa Reed appeared, her blonde hair pulled into a sleek ponytail, her usual designer blazer swapped for a simple sweater. Amara tensed memories of Vanessa's manipulations, the fake photo, the cutting remarks flashing through her mind. "Amara," Vanessa said, her voice hesitant. "Can we talk?" Amara crossed her arms, her guard up. "What's this about?" Vanessa took a breath, her eyes meeting Amara's. "I owe you an apology. I was awful. The email, the photo, all of it. I was jealous of your talent, your heart, the way David looks at you. I thought I could control things, but I was wrong." Amara blinked, caught off guard. She'd expected a fight, not this. Why now, Vanessa's smile was small, almost sad. "I saw the center. What you've built. It's real, Amara. and I'm tired of being the person who tears things down. I'm leaving the foundation next month, starting fresh. I just wanted to make this right." For a moment, Amara didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to hold on to the hurt, but another part, the part that had given a stranger her last $10, knew better. "I appreciate that," she said finally. "Good luck, Vanessa." Vanessa nodded, relief in her eyes. "You too. And congratulations on everything." As Vanessa walked away, Amara felt a weight lift. Forgiveness wasn't easy, but it was freedom. Later, Amara found a quiet corner and pulled out her mom's poetry journal, its pages worn but warm in her hands. She'd added a new poem that morning, one she hadn't shared with anyone. "Loving is planting seeds in different soil, trusting they'll grow." She traced the words, thinking of David in New York, Jared's saxophone, Tasha's laughter, Malik's loyalty. Her life was a tapestry of people, each thread a choice to love, to give, to keep going. Tasha joined her holding 2 slices of pie. "You hiding from your own party," she teased, handing Amara a plate. "Just thinking," Amara said, taking a bite. The sweet potato filling was rich, a taste of home. "You ever feel like everything's connected, like every choice led you somewhere?" Tasha grinned, her eyes twinkling. "Girl, you sound like a poet. But yeah, I get it. You gave that $10, and look where it got you. A whole damn center. A ring, and a man who's crazy about you." Amara laughed, her heart full. "Guess I'm not done planting seeds." "Never," Tasha said, pulling her into a hug. "Now get back out there. Your people need you." The night ended with a surprise. As Amara thanked the crowd, Malik cranked up the music, and Jared led a group of kids in a dance-off that had everyone laughing. But the real moment came when a letter was delivered, handed to Amara by Carol. It was from Tasha's old hospital where she'd worked as a nurse before her fall. The letter was short but powerful. Tasha had been accepted into a reinstatement program, a chance to reclaim her license. Amara found Tasha by the kitchen, her eyes wide as she read the letter. "They want me back," Tasha whispered, tears spilling. After all this time, Amara hugged her tight, her own tears falling. "You're a fighter, Tasha. Always have been." Tasha laughed through her sobs. "Takes one to know one." A week later, Amara stood at O'Hare Airport, her heart racing, as David stepped through the gate, his grin as bright as the Chicago sun. He dropped his bag and pulled her into a kiss, the kind that made the world disappear. They spent the weekend tangled in each other, cooking breakfast in her tiny apartment, dancing to jazz at the Blue Note, planning a future that spanned cities but shared one heart. On their last night, they sat on the roof of Amara's building, the city sprawling below the $10 bill tucked between them. Amara read her poem aloud, her voice steady. "Loving is planting seeds in different soil, trusting they'll grow." David took her hand, his eyes soft. "You're my soil, Amara. Wherever I am, you're home." She leaned into him, the stars above quiet witnesses. The road hadn't been easy benches, hungered out rivals, but every step had led her here to purpose, to love, to a life she'd built with her own hands. Back at the Open Hands Community Center, Amara started each day in the kitchen, tying on an apron, greeting guests by name. The center was more than a building. It was a promise, a proof that kindness could ripple out, changing lives. She thought of her mom, of the dove pin, of the $10 that started it all, and she knew, no matter what came next, she'd keep planting seeds. Amara's story is a reminder that one small act of kindness can grow into something extraordinary. What's a moment of kindness that changed your life? Share it in the comments below and hit that subscribe button to join us for more soul-stirring stories. Together we can keep spreading hope, one story at a time.